The convenience store lights flickered as Amara Williams pressed her palm against the glass door, rain hammering the streets of Shibuya behind her. Her braids were soaked through, water dripping onto the linoleum floor as she stood there catching her breath, watching the storm turn Tokyo into a blur of neon and chaos. She'd been in Japan for 3 months now, teaching English to businessmen who barely looked up from their phones, living in a shoebox apartment that smelled like mildew and regret. New York felt like another lifetime, her ex-fiancé's voice still echoing in her head sometimes, telling her she'd never make it on her own. "You're American." The voice came from beside her, smooth and certain. Amara turned. A man stood under the awning, tall and lean, his black umbrella perfectly steady despite the wind tearing through the street. His skin was pale, almost translucent in the strange light, but his eyes were dark and knowing, like he'd been watching her long before she noticed him. "You shouldn't be out here alone when the city weeps." Amara raised an eyebrow, her New York instincts kicking in. "I'm fine, thanks." But even as she said it, another gust of wind nearly knocked her sideways. Her cheap umbrella had given up 2 blocks back, left inside out in a trash can. He tilted his umbrella toward her without asking, creating a shelter that felt too intimate for strangers. "At least let me walk you somewhere dry. There's a ramen shop around the corner. You look like you could use something warm." She should have said no. Everything about him screamed red flag, the too perfect posture, the way he appeared out of nowhere, the fact that he hadn't blinked once since they started talking. But there was something magnetic in his stillness, something that made her want to stay close. "Just until the rain stops," she heard herself say. The ramen shop was barely wider than a hallway, tucked between a karaoke bar and a shuttered pharmacy. Steam rose from bowls at the counter as they sat down, the chef nodding without speaking. The man ordered for both of them in flawless Japanese, then turned to study her face like he was reading a book he'd memorized long ago. "What's your name?" Amara asked, wrapping her cold fingers around the hot bowl when it arrived. "Names are temporary things," he said, his voice carrying an accent she couldn't place. "Call me what you want." She laughed despite herself. "That's not how conversations work." "Then how about Kaito?" He said it like he was testing the sound. "It means ocean, something vast enough to drown in." "Dark," Amara said, slurping noodles to hide her smile. "I like it." She studied him over the rim of her bowl. His suit was expensive but old-fashioned, like something from a vintage film. His hands never touched his food, just rested on the counter, fingers long and unnaturally still. "You always this mysterious with strangers." "Only the ones who remind me of someone," Kaito said, and something in his tone made her chest tighten. "Tell me, Amara, do you believe some people are meant to find each other?" "How do you know my name?" She hadn't told him. He smiled faintly. "You told the chef when we walked in." Had she? Amara couldn't remember. The storm outside seemed to press against the windows, making the small shop feel like the only real place left in the world. She should have felt afraid, but instead, she felt seen. Known. Like this stranger understood something about her that she'd been hiding even from herself. "I don't believe in fate," she said finally. "I believe in choices." "Then choose to see me again," Kaito said, standing abruptly. He left money on the counter too much and walked toward the door. Before disappearing into the rain, he turned back. "Tomorrow night, 11:11, I'll find you." Wait, but he was already gone, swallowed by the storm. Amara sat there staring at the empty doorway, her heart beating too fast. The chef cleared Kaito's untouched bowl, saying nothing. They met the next night, and the night after, always at 11 p.m., always in different parts of the city, always with him appearing exactly when she needed him most. He never called or texted, never explained how he knew where to find her. Once she joked, "You're like a ghost," and his face went cold as stone. "Don't call me that." "I was kidding." "Ghosts," he said quietly, "are what love leaves behind when it refuses to die." 2 weeks later, they stood on the rooftop of her building, The Tokyo skyline spread before them like scattered jewels. Rain fell in sheets, soaking them both, but Kaito didn't seem to notice. He turned to her with an expression she'd never seen before, desperate, ancient, like he'd been holding something back for too long. "Marry me." Amara's laugh caught in her throat. "What?" "Marry me, Amara." His voice was steady, but his eyes burned. "I know how this sounds. I know we've only known each other 2 weeks, but I've been waiting longer than that." He pulled a ring from his pocket, black metal, engraved with symbols she didn't recognize, and pressed it into her palm. "In another life you were mine. I couldn't save you then, but this time I will." The rain pounded harder. Amara's hands shook. "Kaito, you're scaring me." "Good," he whispered, stepping so close she could feel the cold radiating from his skin. "Because after tonight, everything changes." The lights across Tokyo blinked out. 1 second, 2, 3, complete darkness. When they flickered back on, Kaito was gone. Only the ring remained, burning cold in her hand. If you're already hooked, hit that subscribe button. This story gets darker. The marriage certificate arrived the next morning in a plain manila envelope. No return address, no explanation. Just her name, Amara Williams, and his, Kaito Nakamura. Date, last night. Official Tokyo Ward seal pressed into the paper like a brand. Amara's fingers trembled as she checked the city records on her laptop, then the National Registry. Nothing. No Kaito Nakamura. No birth certificate, no passport, no existence. She should have thrown the ring away. Instead, she slipped it on her finger, and the apartment temperature dropped 10 degrees. "You said yes." His voice came from everywhere and nowhere, wrapping around her like smoke. Amara spun toward her bathroom mirror and froze. Her reflection smiled before she did, lips curling with knowledge she didn't possess. In the glass, Kaito stood behind her, his hand hovering over her shoulder without touching. "Welcome back, wife." Amara stumbled backward, knocking over a chair. "This isn't real, you're not real." "Real enough that you're wearing my ring," Kaito said, and suddenly he was there, solid and present, standing by her window. The edges of his form shimmered like heat rising from asphalt. "Real enough that you feel it, don't you? The pull, the recognition." "I don't know you." "Not in this life." He moved closer and the air grew colder. "But your soul remembers, it always does." Amara grabbed her phone, hands shaking. "I'm calling the police." "They won't help you." His voice was gentle, almost sad. "They never do. Detective Sato will come tomorrow morning with questions you can't answer. He'll show you a photograph from 1923 and you'll see my face. He'll tell you I died in the Great Kanto Earthquake, but here I am, still waiting, still loving you." "You're insane." Amara yanked the ring off and threw it across the room. The temperature normalized instantly. Kaito's form flickered, then vanished like mist. She collapsed onto her couch, pressing her palms against her eyes, trying to remember how to breathe. The knock came at 8 a.m. Detective Sato stood in her doorway with tired eyes and a badge that looked official enough. "Miss Williams, I need to ask about your neighbor's security footage. There was an incident last night." He showed her the video. Grainy, time-stamped 11:23 p.m. Amara on her rooftop, arguing with empty air, her body jerking backward like invisible hands were pulling her. Then her apartment windows exploding with light. "Were you alone?" Amara's throat felt full of sand. "I think so." Sato leaned forward. "Do you know a man named Kaito Nakamura?" Every hair on her body stood up. "Why?" He slid a photograph across her table. Black and white, 1923, 4 people standing in front of a half-built mansion. The man on the left had Kaito's face, his posture, those same ancient eyes. Next to him stood a black woman in a silk kimono, her features eerily familiar. "That's impossible," Amara whispered. "The man is Kaito Nakamura. The woman is Amara Bennett, daughter of an American diplomat. They died together in the earthquake, but 3 days ago, someone filed a marriage license with both your names." Sato's expression was unreadable. If anything strange happens, call me immediately." After he left, Amara didn't move for an hour. Then she grabbed her laptop and started searching. She found the newspaper article dated September 2, 1923, "Star-crossed lovers perish in mansion collapse." The story said Amara Bennett had defied her father to marry Kaito Nakamura, a wealthy industrialist. When the earthquake struck, they were trapped together. Neither body was ever recovered. Locals called it a curse. Lovers who burned too bright, doomed to repeat their story until they got it right. The woman in the grainy photo looked exactly like her. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She sat by her window watching the rain, the ring sitting on her nightstand like a living thing. Around midnight, she heard humming, a melody she'd never heard but somehow knew. She turned, and Kaito was there again, leaning against her wall, more solid than before. "Why are you doing this to me?" Her voice cracked. "I'm not doing anything," he said softly. "You're the one who came back. You're the one who keeps finding me, life after life." "I didn't ask for this." "Neither did I." For the first time, his composure broke. "Do you think I wanted to spend a century waiting, watching you be born again and again, never remembering me? I've seen you grow old without me 17 times. I've watched you marry other people, have children, die peacefully while I stayed here, trapped between worlds." His voice dropped to a whisper. "This is the first time you've come to Tokyo. The first time you've been close enough for me to reach." Amara's eyes burned. "What do you want from me?" "Come with me," Kaito said, extending his hand. "Not as you are now, as you were meant to be. We can finish what the earthquake stole." "You mean die?" "I mean be free." His hand remained outstretched. "Or you can take off the ring and I'll disappear forever. Your choice, Amara. It's always been your choice." The ring on her nightstand began to glow, pulsing like a heartbeat. Outside, thunder rolled across the city. Kaito's form flickered, becoming more transparent. "Decide quickly," he whispered. "I can't hold on much longer." Amara looked at his hand, then at the ring, then at her own reflection in the dark window. For a moment, she saw the other her, the woman in the photograph, the one who'd loved him enough to defy everything. But she wasn't that woman anymore. Don't go anywhere. The ending will break your heart. Drop a comment if you're Team Amara or Team Kaito. "Show me," Amara said suddenly, standing up. "If you want me to believe this, show me the truth. Take me to where it happened." Kaito's eyes widened slightly, the first real surprise she'd seen from him. "You're not ready." "Then make me ready." She grabbed the ring and shoved it into her pocket. "I'm not choosing anything until I see it with my own eyes." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. "Get dressed. Wear something you can walk in." They took the last train out of Tokyo, riding in silence as the city gave way to countryside. Amara watched Kaito's reflection in the window, sometimes there, sometimes not, flickering like a bad connection. Other passengers never looked at him, never acknowledged his presence. She was starting to understand why. The Nakamura estate ruins sat behind a rusted gate, buried in overgrown bamboo and century-old shadows. Kaito led her through without touching the lock, which swung open on its own. "This is where it happened," he said quietly, "where we promised forever." The mansion was a skeleton, charred beams, collapsed roof, nature reclaiming what fire had destroyed. But in the center stood a mirror, tall and ornate, its surface somehow pristine despite the decay around it. Amara's breath caught. In the reflection, the mansion was whole, intact, alive. And she and Kaito stood together, dressed in wedding clothes from another era. "That's what we could have been," Kaito said, stepping beside her. In the mirror, his hand took hers. "That's what we still can be." Amara watched their reflected selves smile at each other, watched the way mirror her looked at him with complete trust. "What happens if I walk through?" "You join me completely, forever." "And if I don't?" His jaw tightened. "Then I fade, and you'll live the rest of this life wondering what you lost." The mirror rippled. Heat began building in the ruins, impossible heat, flames licking up from nowhere. Amara's heart raced. "Kai." "This is how it happened before," he said, his voice urgent now. "The earthquake, then fire, we were trapped. I tried to save you, but the ceiling," his form flickered violently. "I've relived it every day for 100 years, but if you come with me now, we can rewrite it. We can have the life we were supposed to live." The flames grew higher, spreading across the old wood with unnatural speed. Smoke filled Amara's lungs. She coughed, stumbling toward the mirror. In the reflection, the mansion was peaceful, perfect, untouched by fire. Kaito's mirror self reached toward her, desperate. "Trust me," the real Kaito whispered, "like you did before." Amara's hand touched the mirror's surface. It felt like water, like she could push through if she just... No. She pulled back. The memory of that newspaper article flashed through her mind. Star-crossed lovers perish. She thought about the woman in the photo, about 17 lifetimes of Kaito watching her live without him, about how love shouldn't feel like drowning. "I can't," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Kaito, I can't keep dying for you." His expression shattered. "Amara." "You died 100 years ago," she said, pulling the ring from her pocket. It burned hot in her palm. "You died, and that was tragic, and I'm sorry. Maybe I was her once. Maybe I loved you then, but I'm not her anymore." She looked at him directly, unflinching. "And you're not him, you're what's left. You're the pain that won't heal. And if I go with you, I'll just be feeding that pain forever." "I love you," Kaito said, his voice breaking for the first time. "Across every lifetime, every version, I have only ever loved you." "I know," Amara's tears fell freely, "but love isn't supposed to trap people, it's supposed to set them free." She threw the ring into the flames. The sound that erupted wasn't human, it was the scream of a century of grief finally released. The mirror exploded into 1,000 fragments, each one reflecting Kaito's face before dissolving into light. The fire died instantly. The heat vanished. And Kaito. He stood before her one last time, fully visible, fully present. Not the ghost or the memory or the curse. Just a man who'd loved too hard and held on too long. "Thank you," he whispered. Then he smiled, really smiled, peaceful and free, and faded like morning mist. The ruins were silent. Dawn crept over the horizon, painting everything gold. Amara stood alone in the ash and rubble, the weight finally lifted from her chest. She walked back through the bamboo, back to the train station, back to Tokyo. But when she got home and opened her door, she froze. On her table sat a single lotus flower in a glass of water, fresh and perfect. Beside it, a note in handwriting she recognized. "I waited 100 years. I can wait one more lifetime until you're ready to find me again. Thank you for setting me free. K." Amara picked up the lotus, smiling through her tears. Maybe love didn't die in Tokyo. Maybe it just learned patience. Maybe in the next life or the one after that she'd remember him clearly. And maybe then they'd get it right. But for now she was alive, free, and that was enough. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. Would you have walked through the mirror or done what Amara did? Your engagement helps bring more stories like this to life. Until next time, Tokyo has more secrets to tell.